Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I am back again. Adam's Rambling Podcast, episode 9, I think. I think it's 9. If it's wrong, I'll just pretend like I didn't say that, you know. Just edit that shit out in your minds, not from the pod, I'm not going to actually edit. So it's a little dark in here, guys. I'm trying to make the light a little brighter, but it's just dark outside, so I think that's just computer lighting isn't the best, you got to work with it. This won't be as long as the last one because I don't plan on getting off on any rants today if I can help it. My throat's a little dry. It was dry out today, and I also had to coach soccer today, and then I also had the improv thing, so it's just like a lot of talking. So I figured, I'll talk some more just to really help my voice. Won't that be smart? But it's been a kind of a stressful week. Little thing, more little annoyances than major problems, but still annoyances. So I'll talk about that briefly before I get into stuff I've watched or things that are coming up and things like that. So I just remember there wasn't any major situation early in the week, but it feels like the last couple of days there's been little annoyances that just irritated me. Let me see if I can. Where can I start? All right, the other day I woke up and I was really irritated, and I just I was talking to my wife, and it was just stuff about sketch group and just little things that were annoying me about it. Just venting. It wasn't anything. No one personally that I was mad at or anything like that. It was just just how things have gone certain ways, we had to push shows back, and there's been some people step out, some people step in, it's and then there's been stuff going on, and there's people having some life stuff going on that's messing with things a bit, it all is what it is. But so I think I just I ventured that just put me in a bad mood to start the week, I think, and then I figured it would get better from then, and then the other day wasn't too bad, and then and the last couple of days it's been one thing after the other. There's I went to work, and I got there, and then they're you need to cut some overtime because we have to make sure you're cutting overtime. So if any of you guys punched in, punch back out, and then punch back in 30 minutes or an hour or however much you got to cut. And it's just you couldn't have told us the day before so that we could have just came in at that time, So I drive a decent drive to go to my work. I won't mention where I work because I don't want to have any backlash from this place, and that's not smart to talk about work too much. I don't talk about work too much on here just because it's not really worth talking about. But it's a podcast, and it's what we're gonna do. This is my life, people. Anyway, it was a simple thing so that was annoying, and then there was this person that was complaining about something with the stacking thing and the way things were stacked or something. I won't go into specifics about that, but I heard him crabbing about it while I was over on the other aisle, and then I get my boss coming over, and then she's basically, I knew exactly what she was going to say, and then it was just it just set me off. I'm this is such ridiculous, because where I work, there's several shifts of people, and it just feels like certain shifts want to just talk crap about the other shifts or blame stuff that happened on the other shift. Some of you might relate to this if you work at a certain place or a certain type of job where there's multiple shifts, obviously. It gets a little annoying. I think I just kind of had enough of it, and it was we were close, but I was just blowing up and just going off. I'm they do this crap, they don't do anything, and so I was really upset for a few minutes. And I calmed down, and I even apologized to the boss, and she said I totally understand. They came out on my lunch and started, So it wasn't a big deal, but it was just put me in a bad mood on my Friday, and it was just And so then I'm on my way home, and I was gonna try to make an appointment for an oil change because I was due for that. My little light came on, and I went to the website for Toyota, and it said that they didn't have any openings until at least the 7th. And I'm well, fuck, I don't want to wait that long, But I thought, well, you know what? I'll call them. But before I could do that, I found this thing, and it was a message to my Gmail. It's we'd like to thank you for your purchase of this of 348 hours for some plan for your computer or some shit like that. I'm like, I never purchased that, so that was a whole thing. It ended up they were trying to use my PayPal or something. But that took an hour of going through, setting up this thing where they can check the thing and figure out who was taking it and what account they were taking it from. And that just took an hour of my time. That was just like not what I want. After the day I'd had at work, it was the last thing I wanted to deal with. I was just trying to get my car in. Now, luckily, the good thing was I was able to get in at Toyota that day. They said, oh, we have one at 2:30 today. I'm like, oh, great. So I ended up staying up for a little longer than I usually do. Because usually I take a nap around that time on a Friday just to kind of catch some sleep up before I eat dinner and stuff. But, yeah. And then, it wasn't bad. The oil change. They usually do like a full point inspection and all that. So it's usually about $100 or so, which isn't bad. But I have like a Toyota credit card, which I had gotten when I'd gotten the car, because when I got in the car, my credit wasn't that great. So that helped me put a payment down. But I just use it to like pay for oil changes, or if there's other repairs and stuff like that, replacing tires, all that good stuff. So, and then I have a decent limit on it too. They've bumped the limit up because I've been such a loyal customer and used it a lot. So it's a bit of a relief when if you have some big repair, it's $800, then you're not having to pull it out of your own account right then and there. It's more of like, okay, I'll pay a couple hundred to the card, and pay it down and stuff. But like, I went to use it the other day and they slid it a couple times and it came up declined, and it's, a brand new card. I just checked that I had like over like $1,000 on the, thing. So it's like, what the hell's going on? And I talked to one of the employees, says, yeah, the parts and laborers aren't taking those cards for some reason. Or they refuse to take those cards now or something. I'm just like, okay, well, that's a big problem. Now I'm going to call them and talk to them. And I asked them about that. And the people in the service people were very nice. I've always had a good rapport with them. And they do good work. But, like, it's just like, so, okay, I've put thousands of dollars, into this thing, paying every month and all that. Not paying $1,000 every month, but, it has a decent limit, so it's not going to be something I can just like pay off tomorrow. Like, oh, it's $500 limit. Well, that's paid off. It's like it's got a decent amount of money on it. I've put money into it every single month, and now you're telling me basically like this card that I've been using as a lifesaver. Now you're telling me that I can't freaking use it, and they don't want to accept it now. Their own credit card, because it's not like like Amazon or something like that, where it's like, okay, well, you just can't buy cigarettes or something like, not that I smoke, but just as an example, like, oh, you can't use this for certain things. It's like, what else are you going to use a Toyota credit card for? You're going to use it for either making a payment, like paying down or like a down payment, or you're going to use it for repairs. Because what else are you buying? Are you buying like, oh, I bought some seat cushions or something? No one's using that for that. Come on. You can buy a seat cushion at frickin' any store, that sells automotive stuff, why would you buy it at Toyota? What, just to get their insignia? So yeah, I'll be having a discussion with the people at the credit card thing and just explain like, hey, why is this happening? And I'm not even saying that they know exactly why, but it was just kind of annoying. It's just like, and like I said, it wasn't much, so I was able to cover it, but it was just like, it was $100 I wasn't planning on spending. So yeah, that was unfortunate. And then today, I went to go coach my soccer class, which is my other job, and I got there, and it looked like we had a decent amount of kids signed up, and then like the first class, like only 4 showed up, and I'm like, for a first day, I'm like, well, this is weird. It says we have like 14, and then a couple people showed up a little bit late, which happens sometimes. But then one of them was like, oh, there's a bunch of people over at the other field. And I'm like, other field? What other field? So apparently some parents were told to go to one field, and other parents came to the field I was at. I wasn't informed of any field change whatsoever from the Parks and Rec or the bosses, which communication things happen. I get it, But it's just the whole day of like people showing up there late and being upset because they've been at this other field, and I'm just like, I wasn't informed of anything. And then I went to Seattle because we do our rehearsals at the Seattle Center for the other group of Plobby Daddy that I coach and stuff. And we had a good meeting and a good plan to lay out for the fall and stuff. But getting there was a pain in the ass because no real traffic on I-5, which was rare. Got off at the exit like I normally do off the 167 exit there, and then was going along smoothly until I got right towards to turn to Seattle Center where I would normally go towards and park, and they've got that road blocked off. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I saw a thing that said event at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and I'm like, what? It's not that time yet. I can still, But no, I'm like, okay, I can't turn left. But then you couldn't turn left, and you couldn't turn left. And then I'm seeing this, and it's like this entire people of a parade setting up to go through their parade. So I could not turn left for blocks. So they had blocks blocked off all the way up to Seattle. I had no idea this crap was going on. Like I said, I don't live in Seattle. I live a little bit north of Seattle in Mount Lake Terrace. So it's something I'm just trying to turn, or I'm trying to find somewhere I can just park so I can just walk. But I couldn't get to one of those parking places, and then and then we weren't moving, and then I was trying to make a turn. That I finally got to a place where I could turn left, and then these stupid cars just kept turning that way, and then standing right there in front of so I could not turn. I'm just like, why are you blocking the freaking intersection? And then finally, when I finally have a clear turn, then a whole bunch of motor cops come and block my way and stop me from turning, and I'm like, what the? I was just so enraged, and finally I was able to make the turn. They waved me through right after that. So I'm like, all right, So I got around. I tried going down. I ended up by Climate Pledge, which you can only go one way. So then I had to kind of wait in another big line of cars waiting to go because of the parade. And then I finally went up to Roy and turned around, and then I was able to get back to that parking thing. Finally parked, but it took me almost 40 minutes just to freaking get through that crap. It was just I was not in the mood for that shit today. So I was very grateful when I actually got to come home to my wife and stuff. So yeah, that was my week. Woo! Not the best, not the worst in the world. I mean, in terms of overall problems, my health is fine. My marriage is fine. Friendships are great. Family's doing fine. Overall job is fine. So it's money's fine. It's so it's not big world problems, but just how it can be when you just have a couple of days where things are just this is so annoying. Why? So yeah, that was annoying. But anyway, what else is going on in the world, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know why I went southern there for a minute, but so anyway, I've watched a couple things. We finished Secret Invasion the other day, and then I watched Creepshow season 3. I think there's going to be a season 4 in the fall, but I don't know for sure. That's what it says on IMDb, but I don't know how many episodes it's going to be, if it's actually gotten filmed with the strike, who knows. Obviously, the strike is, a lot of things are getting pushed back. I know Sony's pushed back a lot of Spider-Man related stuff. They're talking about pushing back the Marvels and several other things. So yeah, because they can't promote it, So it's which I get, I know Blue Beetles should still be coming out, as far as I know. And I was thinking about this thing, everyone's talking a lot about the superhero fatigue. And I might have covered this a little bit on the other podcast, but I think it's sort of a multiple point thing, because I see a lot of things, and I think I mentioned this, but where you go to a comment thing, or someone's talking about a Marvel movie or a DC movie or whatever the case, whatever comic book related thing it is, and then you have the people who are just especially the Marvel people, yeah, I stopped watching after Endgame. And it's but you see that comment all the time online, on YouTube, on other things, and it's just okay, guys, shut the fuck up. We get it. You're such an edgelord. We're all so impressed that you stopped watching after Endgame. Great, cool, and that's fine. I get it. If it's a long running thing, you get to a certain point, and I get that with horror movies sometimes too. If you have 8 million sequels, or you're oh my god, is this over yet? I like to call it the Saw series. But it's. I'll talk about Saw in a minute, but yeah. So I think I understand that sometimes you know what, I enjoyed most of this, but I've had my fill and I'm stepping away from it. Totally understandable. But it's this constant need of reminding you, well, I stopped watching after Endgame. I'm some snooty. It's okay, shut up, you know. And then you have, I mean, like I said, you always have people who are just don't like superhero movies, and okay, that's fine. That's not everybody's cup of tea. You know, there's things that aren't my cup of tea, but I don't begrudge people liking them. I'm not into a lot of the anime stuff. There's some stuff that's okay. I know Anna likes some of it, but like some of it, I'm just like I just can't get into it. Just not my cup of tea. But but there's people who like it a lot, and that's totally fair. Um, Now, as far as what we're going with the superhero fatigue thing, I think one of the things with it is that I don't think it's so much a fatigue thing. I think some of it's just some of the characters they're choosing to focus on. And I know I'm not saying that no, oh, you just don't like this female character. That's not what I'm at all. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you have to understand that for a majority of people that are into comic books or whatnot, or even if they're just into comic book movies, most of the people that are into these characters, now you have your exceptions, like Guardians of the Galaxy, or even with like Iron Man, who was always kind of a sort of a B-list character. It was never like a Spider-Man or X-Men or something like that. But like the movies made that character popular because they were well made. You could relate to the character and things like that. I think what's happening right now is that rather than like focus on the more popular characters that everybody wants to see, like the X-Men and Fantastic Four, a well done Fantastic Four movie, and your Daredevil, which we're still getting some Daredevil, these Ghost Riders, the Punisher, rather than focusing on those characters, we're bringing characters like the Eternals and like Ironheart and Miss Marvel had some good popularity, so I've no problem. But like even Captain Marvel's, most of the comics that I did with Captain Marvel did not sell very well. So it's like, and that can be a whole discussion of whether people like things because of certain things, because it's a female or whatever. But like, I think you have to look at what's selling. If something is selling well, or a character is something that people can really attach to. So like Black Panther was something that that was something that people could attach to. Miss Marvel, I think, to a point, is something that people can attach to because it showed like someone was a Muslim and dealing with that. I think they had some good stuff in there. Like I said, the pacing was a little slow at times, but I think there was some interesting things in there. So, but for I just feel like they're not focusing enough on the. I think if you, like I said, if you were like, okay, guys, here's the X-Men, here's our cast, boom, or we're gonna have a couple solo movies. Here's a solo movie with Storm, or we're introducing Storm, or here's Cyclops, or who's Rogue or Gambit or anything. Then yeah, I think you probably would have pretty good response. But I think, and I liked the Ant-Man and the Quantum Mania myself. I don't know why everyone hates it, but like. Ant-Man itself has never been the biggest draw because that character has never been the biggest draw. And I think that's the thing to remember about it. Eternals, I mean, how many people... I've never even read the Eternals. Like, I didn't even know what the hell the Eternals was. I'm like, what is that? I think I didn't really know what Guardians of the Galaxy was until it came out. But if the movie is well made, like what James Gunn did with Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff, then you can draw in, and these characters are fun, and there's interesting, there's an interesting dynamic, or you can relate to that character and connect to it. And I think there's just so much of it that some of these characters they're dragging out, and nothing against Echo. I thought she was fine in the Hawkeye thing. Did we need an Echo series? I liked Agatha. Do we need an Agatha series really? I mean, I'm not saying I won't watch it because I'm an MCU guy, but it's one of those things where I feel like I'm all for taking time and planning things well to get things right for these more popular characters. But you also got to make that effort for these kind of unknown characters, or you got to focus on doing like they did with Werewolf at Night. They had like that special. So yeah, would a 6 to 8 episode thing really do well for Werewolf at Night, or was this nice introduction of just a tease of like here's Werewolf at Night. This is kind of a cool setting. It's kind of like a Universal monster film. This is cool. You're getting an introduction to this character without having to be like, here's 10 episodes on this character, or here's 6 episodes that you're barely going to scratch the surface of. And that's the big thing. Episode count, I think, is really important because, and CW, the thing when I would watch those CW Arrowverse shows, you had so many filler episodes where it's like well, we're going to ignore the plot here and have a wacky episode with this character. And it's like, which is fine once in a while. It's nice to balance things out. But, like, it did feel like sometimes you have these 22 episode things or 13 episode things where it's like, this episode is just pointless. Why am I even watching it? You know? And I think, but then you have the other token where it's like, you have 6 episodes and you're just like, man, I kind of wish they'd stretch this out. Which kind of brings me to Secret Invasion. So we overall enjoyed it. I think it was fresh in terms of not using the sometimes overused Marvel humor, which can be hit or miss. There's nothing wrong with, like I said, let me be very clear. There's nothing wrong with having some humor in the movie. I'm all for that. There's plenty of silly things in the comics. But when you overdo it, like the recent Thor movies and stuff like that, where it's just like, beat you over the head with it, or here's a serious moment completely cut up by, I gotta make a joke now, ha ha ha. You know, it's like, then it kind of gets like, let's have some, can we have some weight to this moment maybe? Could there be some, So the pluses of Secret Invasion. It was nice to see Nick Fury get a spotlight. You know, Samuel Jackson's always great, you know. I liked Gia, played by, what's her friggin' name? She was from Game of Thrones, which I never really was into, but I think she's pretty good. Hold on, let me, I have to IMDb search. It's been a long day in the sun, guys. Long day in the sun. I should know her name, too. I usually do. Hold on a minute. Secret Invasion. Oh, Emilia Clarke, yes. Yeah, she was good. I really liked the guy, Kingsley Beladar, who played... full spoilers for you haven't watched it, by the way. Full spoilers. I liked him. I thought he was really good. I forget his character. Gravik? Yeah, he's Gravik. The Super Skrull. I thought he was really solid. I think he was a good actor, a decent villain. And I liked the woman who played the other... I think her name was Priscilla. Her Earth name was Priscilla. Interestingly enough, she played Samuel Jackson's mom in Unbreakable. Now, granted, not as his older self, obviously, but like as his kid version. So it's kind of funny they were playing kind of a husband-wife thing in this one. And I thought the CGI they used on it was pretty good from transferring from this to that. Interestingly enough, like you show that Rhodey, from what I've heard, it didn't really go into it in the show, but that Rhodey had been replaced back like as far as Civil War. So if you look into that, it's like, oh my god, that means he doesn't even know that Tony Stark is dead, you know. So I'm sure that's going to be a big tie-in to Armor Wars and stuff with him figuring out this stuff. And then you had Everett Ross, that like, so it's like, oh, so that wasn't him in Wakanda Forever, you know. It's like, or maybe the first Black Panther even, yeah. So it's like, when was he replaced, you know? Yeah. So I would say like, overall, it was a solid show. It had that nice political thriller to it. It didn't have too much comedy with the silly Marvel stuff. It was serious. But I think overall the issues is too short. I think something with the Secret Invasion, you really need to stretch it out because it's a pretty big story overall. And yeah, I really think it needed to either be a multiple season show or needed to just be longer episodes and longer, season, or it needed to be an Avengers movie. And I think, sometimes you hit or miss, and I can understand you can't always get all the A-listers together and the A-plus characters all together to fight a thing, but like, it just felt like it was such a big thing in the comics, and I think it was kind of like, it wasn't really a letdown. Like, there was nothing wrong with it. The acting was fine. We liked a lot of it. But I think overall it's just kind of one of those kind of things where I was kind of like, this is good, but man, imagine how better it could be, where it's like, man, they spent that much millions of hours on this? Wow. But like, it was solid though. It was a solid thing. I'd give it probably about a B overall as far as quality. We enjoyed watching it. It wasn't like, oh god, this is boring, it's like, it was good, but it was just one of those things where it's like, man, I just wish this could be longer, and I wish this could be stretched out more, and we could get more with these characters and more with the scrolls and stuff like that. It was nice to see Dermot Mulroney playing the president too. It was like, yeah. Now for me, Dermot Mulroney will always be Dirty Steve from the Young Guns. And my friend Donovan and me used to quote that movie all the time. It was, he would jokingly call me Dirty Steve sometimes. It was funny. But yeah, it's good to see Dermot Mulroney getting work. Yeah, good to see him doing. Yeah, you go, Dirty Steve. Yeah, all right. But yeah, yeah. So overall, that was my thoughts on Secret Invasion, and pretty much Anna, I think, mirrored those. She didn't join me for this because she's got to get to bed. But yeah, so I enjoyed Secret Invasion. And I think what's the next? I think Loki. Well, I know they're releasing Echo, which is only going to be like 5 episodes. They're releasing all of those at once. I'll still watch it. You know, like I said, I've watched pretty much every one of the Disney Plus shows, in varying degrees of quality. But like, yeah, I'll still give everything a chance, unless I just absolutely hate a character or an actor that I don't know. You know, but like, even then, I watched Captain Marvel. I'll probably see the Marvels. You know, so it's like I think I didn't hate Captain Marvel. It was just one of those kind of like, you know, it wasn't bad, but not like, was it necessary before, you know, Endgame? Not so much, but it is what it is. But I don't have anything problem with Brie Larson. I thought she was quite charming on her YouTube channel. Like, I feel like she's around those times she was coming off very stiff in interviews, or like she was trying really hard to be funny, or like, you know, witty. But whereas I feel like on her YouTube channel she's a lot more laid back and can just be her old self, really. I'd say, and not that people can't evolve and change, but like if you watch like old interviews with her on late shows, she's very like bubbly and down to earth and stuff, and like it's just so weird to like go from that to like, well, now I've won an Oscar, so now I must be serious. I must be serious at all times. And, you know, which is fine, whatever. It's the crazy Hollywood business, but yeah, but no, I you know, I'm not one of those men who's like, oh, freaking Brie Larson, you know, and like, you know, with a lot of those people went off on the whole thing of like, this movie wasn't made for you, you know, and it's like, you know, fair enough, but like, just to say on that comment that she made there, it's not, I wasn't insulted by that comment. I don't really care. But like, we're just talking about Wrinkle in Time, and it's just like, okay, well, it doesn't matter if it was a white person or a black person or a woman or whoever commenting on the movie. The movie was bad. And it's not even the fault of the director necessarily. I just think it's one of those books that's hard to adapt to the screen. And they did a TV movie once too that wasn't very good either. So I think there's some books that just don't transfer well. Sometimes media difference between them, movies and books and things, sometimes it just doesn't transfer well. That's just the long and the short of it, you know. So it's nothing. It's not like, oh, this director should never work again, or these actors should never work again. It just didn't work. I've seen actors from that since then, and they've done well. Like Storm Reed, she's been a lot since then, and she's good. So it's like, but just the movie itself. So I think it was just one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, but even if whether it was a 30-year-old white man or a black woman or a black guy or a Asian woman or whatever commenting on it, they might have all just said, yeah, this movie wasn't very good. You know, so it's like, I don't think it matters what the critic is or looks like or whatever their gender or whatever it is. Like, who cares? It's like, the movie isn't good. The movie isn't good. You know, it's like, or if it's like, well, there were points that were good and points that weren't. But you know, it's one thing if the critic is just like completely biased and like, well, I didn't like the lead because they look like this. You know, then that's one thing. But like, I'm sure the critic that gave a review on that wasn't like just some snooty like, oh, well, if they had done this with it, yeah. I mean, who knows? I never read the review, so I don't even know what she's talking about. So, anyway, enough about that. You know, no, I have no problem with Brie Larson. She's fine. She's a decent actress. I've seen her in other things that she was really good in. So, you know, if you don't like her as Captain Marvel, it's like, yeah, it looks like she's having more fun in this movie. And I think, like I said, I think the director of the Marvels, she's clearly a comic book fan. And so that's cool. And like I said, whatever I had my feelings on Candyman, the follow-up that they did, it was a well-made film. That's the only thing I will say. I had some problems with it, but it was a well-made film, and I think she had a lot of good creativity. So I do think that that director, Nina Costa, that's her name. I think she's very talented, and I hope she gets lots of work, and I hope this works out for her. So yeah, that wraps up Secret Invasion. So the Marvels will be coming out. Loki will be coming out season 2. I am definitely looking forward to that. I definitely enjoyed the first season. Tom Hiddleston's cool. So, and yeah, it's gonna have Kiwai. Is it Kiwai? I think that's how it is. Kwan, who of course recent Oscar winner. He also, for those of you who didn't know who he is, he was in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, and of course he was a Goonie, and of course he was Short Round in Temple of Doom. So he's all grown up, of course, now, and he's just anything time you see him, he's like a big kid, and he's just very likable. Like all the times when he like surprises Harrison Ford, it's just like it's great. And he's still totally tight with all the people from the Goonies. It's like, which is great. That was one of those endearing stories of the Oscars. Like, I've had some issues here and there with the Oscars, and I know a lot of people do, but this year's Oscars, I really liked it this year. Like, it was just the people who won. It felt like a feel good. It felt like I'm happy this person won. Whereas opposed to it's like, oh gee, this person won again, or oh, they shouldn't have won. This person, where you have to be like, this person should have won, or this person should have won. It felt like more or less like, I like all these people. I'm glad they won. And that's not going to be like that every year, but, it was one of those kind of special years. So anyway, let's talk about Creepshow Season 3. I will say, the first 2 seasons I was pretty happy with. But Season 3 to me was not quite as strong in terms of episodes. There were some good ones. Let me go ahead and pull up the episode order. Let's get rid of some stuff off here real quick. I have too much stuff on here. There we go. All right. Episode order. I had this pulled up a minute ago. Creepshow. Season had 3 episodes. Okay. So I'm going to go over each episode. I'll try to remember people who are in them. Okay, so episode 1 is, of course, 2 stories. One is called Mums, and the other one is called Queen Bee. So Mums, basically this, it's kind of set in like olden times, I think 1920s or something like that. And this boy lives in a farmhouse, and his dad's kind of an asshole. I'm trying to remember who played the dad. Like, I've seen him and stuff before. I'll remember it later. Not that worried about it. It's not important to the story who played him, but like, oh, who was it? What? Now it's driving me nuts. I know I've seen this stuff, so it's like, who was it, man? Who was it? Whatever, I can't remember. I was in the sun all day. I'm just like, but anyway, like basically, like he treats the wife really badly, and basically says she's mentally ill and all this other stuff, and basically gaslights her and all that. Meanwhile, we find out he's having an affair with her sister, and basically he ends up trying to drive her out there and ends up killing her by mistake, and then they bury her into the garden and stuff like that. But like, he bleeds a little bit, and so the blood kind of helps her grow into this kind of zombie-esque monster creature who can kind of talk to her son, and so her son kind of traps each one of them to be eaten by her, basically, and then he takes this big plant, which is his mom, to go see his grandmother. So another one was solid. It was decent. It was creepy, but I'm just like, man, that guy was playing her husband with a jerk. Oh, Ethan Embry. That's who it was. Ethan Embry. Just came to me. Yeah. If you've seen Ethan Embry, he's been in a lot of things. He was in Vegas Vacation. He was in Can't Hardly Wait. Been in a lot of things. But he was a creep in this one. And then Queen Bee. Queen Bee was interesting because it was very much like there were these 3 teenagers, and they were really obsessed with like this pop artist or something like that. So kind of like almost like a Beyonce thing, I guess, or I guess Taylor Swift, maybe, if you wanted to go that way. But like, well, I recognize one of the actresses because she plays Moon on Cobra Kai, and I'm like, it's Moon. And so they sneak out to, they find out that she's pregnant, this pop star, and they're like, oh, she's in a secret location, and we want to sneak in and get a picture of the baby or something like that. Well, it turns out that, of course, this hospital is like really creepy, and they end up breaking in, and like all these people have these big like glowing yellow eyes or whatever, and then we see that they're trying to put something, some kind of needle in the back. You think it's like an epidural or something like that, but then like she starts to break apart, and she's literally a freaking bee. It literally lives up to its name. So she's Queen Bee, and then the other ones get, you know, the yellow eyes and all that, and the one girl tries to escape, but she ends up getting fed to the babies, and Moon turns on her friend because she's brainwashed by the Queen Bee. Got to feed the queen. So that was weird. It was definitely a weird one, but it wasn't too bad. So I would say those first two episodes were pretty solid. All right, what's the next two after that? Skeletons in the Closet and Familiar. So Skeletons in the Closet, that was pretty good. I had James Remar was in that. The hell? Go back. Why are you clicking on YouTube? Stop that. Yeah, he was in that, and he was like this collector, and it was cool because there was a lot of homages to films and stuff like that. And this one guy, he was a big horror geek, and he had a like goth girlfriend kind of. She's a cute girl, and James Remar was kind of like a rival of his father, who was also a collector. What they would do is they would get these actual skulls from movies, like Poltergeist and things like that, and they would just display them as, here's the actual skull, or here's the skull from Evil Dead, or here's the skull from this movie, and so like, yeah, it ends up being like, it turns out that some of these skulls that he actually dug up from, and so James Remar is there to like come after him, and then the goth girlfriend ends up slitting his throat, and they end up like killing him and making him into a skeleton, but then his skeleton comes to life and ends up killing the girl, and then they have a big sword fight, and his dad skeleton helps him, and so that one was fun. That was probably my favorite one of the season. I thought it was fun. It was nice homage to horror things and horror films and stuff like that. So it seems like they have one each season where there's kind of some homages to like, hey, Evil Dead. So I liked that one pretty good. I've seen a couple of the people besides Jamie Remar. I think I've seen a couple of the main actors in other things. They had like an homage to Psycho where he got, so there's a lot of little homages to films. So that's fun. I like when they do stuff like that. Now, Familiar was interesting because I recognized it was. I gotta look this up real quick. Who was in that episode? Familiar. Let's see. Episode list. This should tell me. So it's basically this lawyer. Oh yeah, Familiar. There we go. Excuse me. Lawyer. Who was it? Andrew Bachelor. I've seen him before. Where have I seen you at, Andrew Bachelor? I know I've seen you at things. He was in the Babysitter movies. Yeah, if you've seen the Babysitter movies, Andrew Bachelor is the black guy that's with them for the sacrifice and all that. He's very, very entertaining in that movie. But he's playing a lawyer, and he's dating this woman. They go to see this like psychic guy or whatever, and I think it's like New Orleans or something like that. They're definitely in like that southern town. And what happens is that like he starts to have a familiar start to follow. He starts to see this creature following him and all that. And he'll have these moments where his chairs get rearranged and all that. So he goes back to see the psychic and says that this thing's going to try to trick you and all that because he thinks the dog is under this thing, and grabs him. And so he has this plan to like trap it in a box, and then he's going to like set it on fire or something like that. I think that's what he does, set it on fire. Or he makes it drowned or something like that. Well, he's dating his girlfriend or whatever, and he suspects that she's trying to trick him. So he traps her in this box, and she's, interestingly enough, this is the second episode that this actress has been in, because she was in the one with, oh God, what's his name? Justin Long from the previous season. Hannah Ferriman. She was the girl from VHS that was in the one where she's, I like, I like you, I like you, staring creepily. So she was in this episode too. I'm like, hey, she's getting a lot of work here in horror. That's awesome. It's awesome when you can recognize people from things. So he ends up, of course, accidentally, burying and killing her, and then, well, the familiar gets him. But yeah, that was solid. I thought it was decent. So that was a decent horror. So actually, the first 4 episodes were decent. It's funny how I said I didn't like it that much, but I'm ending up talking more swimmingly about it. Maybe I'm a liar. A liar, I tell you. Okay, actually I can just stick with this because this is going to give me everything I need. Oh, season 4 we already got there. Where are we? The last. I think it's Sabratra, Sabaria. So Sabaria, there's this like rich collector guy, and he gets this painting, and it was the last painting of this, I think Chinese artist, and but it's about this monster, this kind of monster or whatever that he painted. And so then this guy, after he's the only one who sees it, he's a big smug rich guy. And like he invites all these people to see it, but then he like sets it on fire before anyone can see it, so that only he has a memory of it. Unfortunately for him, he starts seeing it pop up behind things, and he's freaking out about it and all that stuff. And then he eventually, decides he's going to just fight it, and he ends up stabbing it, and then the monster disappears and becomes the artist who'd been trapped in this whole thing this entire time. So then he starts to become the monster at the end. So buyer beware there, buddy. That one was decent. I liked the monster effects on that one. It was nice to see the rich guy get his comeuppance. And then the next one, oh, the weird one with the spiders. That was okay. I'll bite. So it's a guy in prison, and he's getting bullied by the guard and all that stuff. But he's like making friends with these little spiders and stuff like that. And eventually, they basically like eat all the other prisoners and make a big web and all that stuff, and he actually gives into lets this big spider like basically take his body over to like that was an interesting effect. It was a little cheesy, but that one wasn't too bad. I enjoyed it all right. And then what else was there? Stranger Sings and Meter Reader. Oh, yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. Stranger Sings basically is a siren one. There's a woman who sings, and she meets this guy, kind of a, down on his luck guy. And she brings him in or whatever, and with her siren song, which usually the siren song is, trapping someone to kill them, basically. But it turns out that this woman who is a siren wants to, like, have her voice box taken out and put into her friend who really wants to be a siren. So the woman he's initially sort of flirting with, and it wasn't the one who's the siren who drew him in, it was her friend. And then he ends up doing the surgery so he doesn't have to get killed, basically. And so the other woman becomes a siren, and then she's like getting ready to kill him and all that, or eat him or something like that. And then her friends end up stabbing her, and then they just go on a nice date. It was decent. The siren thing was an interesting little thing. The Meter Reader is kind of sort of like a demon one. Like all these people in the family are being, it's almost treated like a virus, almost like a zombie thing, but with demonic people. And it was very much that kind of end of the world type scenario where people go on bikes and fight demons. I don't know. It just felt too Mad Maxy, or Dawn of the Dead, or whatever. We're fighting demons. I don't know. I was kind of falling asleep during that one. So it wasn't boring per se, but it was just kind of like, it just feels like something I've seen, before. And then it was interesting that after this, the next 2 episodes, I'm like watching the first one, and I'm like, I feel like I've seen this already. Like, did they repeat an episode from another season? And it turns out what happened was that me and my wife had watched this one, I think sometime after the first season or something like that. And the only reason we watched it was because, like, Mark Hamill did a voice. One of the second one is animated, and it's called The Things in Oakwood's Past. Now, I didn't rewatch that one just because I had seen it, And so I'm trying to remember. I know it's something to do with like a time capsule and someone stopping it. But Mark Hamill does a voice in it, and I thought that was cool. Um, the previous episode is called Time's Out, and this guy has this chest that his grandfather left him. And basically, what it is you can go in there and kind of stop time or whatever. And his grandmother, says be careful with it because, you know, you can't, you have to be very careful with it. You don't want to overuse it because time can speed up very quickly. This is almost an hour again. Damn it. Oh well, you get talking. It is what it is. So yeah, and interestingly enough, the guy who's playing the main role, I swear to God, he could be like Andrew Garfield's brother. Especially when he gets older and he's wearing the glasses and the way he's kind of had that pompadour his hair that Andrew Garfield has, and it's like moments where I'm like, hey, he kind of looks like Andrew Garfield. But he eventually, he does it to make partner at his law firm, but then he's starting to get like his body's aging and he has like a stroke and he has like and he's only 40 and it's like and he's getting wore down because he keeps going to this chest and doing all this hard law work. And it ends up towards the end or whatever, he ends up like trying to go in there to like, I can do this, and then ends up realizing that his key to the chest that he's just locked himself into is outside the chest. And so he starts to really fast age, and then when his son opens up the chest, he just falls into a thing of dust. So it's a decent one. It's kind of that thing of trying to mess with time travel and what you can do with it sort of thing. So not bad. I enjoyed that one. It was good to rewatch it, actually. I was like, oh, I've seen this one. I swear I have, and I had. Like I said, I didn't watch the things that open past again, but I have seen it. I'm trying to remember what the whole thing was about, but I think it was some kind of evil entity. I mean, it makes sense because it's called Creepshow, Adam. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And then with the last two, we had drug traffic and a dead girl named Sue. I would definitely have to say that drug traffic wasn't bad. I was afraid it was going to be the typical zombie type thing, and I don't know. I like zombie movies to a point, but I feel like so much between Walking Dead and all this other stuff, I just feel like zombie stuff is just like so fucking overplayed. Like if you're gonna do it, do something different with it, but like it just feels like oh yeah, this scenario again, But this was decent because like it wasn't like a full-on zombie thing. It's like this Asian girl is basically like on this politician's bus or whatever, and I recognize the guy from Veep. He was on Veep, and Michael Rooker is playing, which is cool to see him in there. He's playing like almost like an INS agent, and so he's checking people out. But this politician, who's supposedly liberal, is bringing this whole bus of people to show them and be like, oh, I'm here to stop this, and and everybody deserves this thing. And but meanwhile, there's this young Asian girl's with her mother, and her stomach's kind of gurgling, and she's she has to keep taking these pills or whatever. But then Michael Rooker pulls them aside and says, you got all these pills? What is these pills? You can't bring these across the border and all that, But they play him almost like he's going to be this total racist INS guy, but he's actually more liberal than the politician who's just trying to get votes. And yeah, but it ends up being that like the girl, she gets her medication taken away, so she tries to bite the senator's wife or whatever, and like she gets pulled away enough time, but then like she finally just like her head just comes off of her body and then it's just this kind of this floating head entity, which I guess might be something from a Japanese culture or something like that. But like she's kind of this floating head, but she can like bite people and eat people and all that stuff. And then her mom, meanwhile, is like, I have to get her medication. And so they basically destroy her body and all that. But then the mom ends up like cutting her own head off, and then like she ends up taking the form of the body and walking out with her mom's body. So as long as it has a host to stick its head in. So I thought the effects on that was decent. So it was better than I thought it was going to be, because at first I'm like, oh god, we're going to do this zombie thing. And so that was solid. And then the last episode with the dead girl named Sue, man, outside the meter reader one, this was the one I was just like, are we done? And it's set in black and white, and it feels like one of those movies where you're like, we're running from this thing, and there's like something's breaking out, and the world is ending, and da. But like, meanwhile, you think it's this one guy that they're trying to get, and he's done these horrible things, or whatever, and the whole town is against him. And the sheriff's like, no, we're not trying to protect him, but the mayor's trying to protect his son, and but you're thinking maybe he's the monster or something like that, and he's just turning and hitting these people. But it turns out that basically like this girl named Sue, basically he molested her basically, and so the town folks lock him up and basically unleash her undead thing to basically eat him. And it was just like, I was just like, I mean, okay, I don't know, it just felt like something I've seen before, and like it just feels like, that's the thing with Creepshow, it's going to be hit or miss on, and that's fine. Horror anthologies, you're going to have some that are really good and some that you're just like, feels like something I've seen 100 times, you know. So yeah, the acting was okay, but like it was just kind of like, At least the other one had Michael Rooker. But yeah, so I think my favorite episode overall would be, I don't know if I have to necessarily rank them all, but like my favorite episode overall would definitely be the one with the skeletons. I thought that one was really solid and fun. But yeah, overall, it's not a bad season. Like I said, it's still worth a watch. It's fun to watch. But there's going to be a few episodes that are kind of like, they feel that they kind of drag, and that's the worst thing to me, especially if you're only like a 20 or 30 minute story. If you're dragging a 20 minute, 30 story, man, oof. I'd hate to see what you do with 2 hours. So, yeah. But yeah, overall, not bad. I look forward to a potential season 4 if that happens. IMDb said it is, so who knows? But with the strike, who knows? So yeah, guys, there is a trailer for Exorcist Believer. It looks pretty good. I've never been the hugest Exorcist fan. I like the original, and the third one's really good too. Let's not talk about the Heretic or anything else that's happened since then. But this one looks like it's going to be decent. It looks really creepy and stuff. So I think they'll do a good job with it. What else? Only Murders in the Building's coming soon. Another season of that's coming. I'm looking forward to that. Billions final season's coming, and Damian Lewis is coming back. Yes. So that'll be good to watch. I'm looking forward to that. We haven't seen Barbie yet or Oppenheimer, so we didn't do the Barbie or anything. We were busy We had a good time on his birthday though, you know, because we went to the winery. I took her shopping so she could have a little shopping spree. She never got to do that, so I'm like, yeah, it's fine. So she got some stuff she wanted and stuff, and then we went out to the winery up in Woodinville and tried like little wine tasting thing and had like 4 different wines. And I got to say, like, I'm usually not too much into the reds, but like the reds they gave us were really good. And I got, you know, decently toasted. So we had, she had a really good birthday. And it was a lot of fun. So cool, guys. I'm sure she'll pop up on here again with something sometime. So that we watch together, and yeah, like I said, we'll do some rankings and all that stuff. So my voice is actually kind of shot. I hate to have to push the screen pitch to another weekend, but it's been a long day. I'm kind of tired and just want to chill for the rest of the night, guys. So anyway, this has been almost another hour one. Whoops. I guess I just like to talk. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Have a good night.